Turn your hand out over. Grab something to write with. Does everybody have something to write with? Okay, good. And I'm going to give you 20 seconds. How long? 20 seconds. And basically what you're going to do is on the right-hand side of a blank piece of paper, I want you to sign your name. And don't start until I give you this. 20 seconds. I want you to sign your name like you do a check as many times as you can from the top to the bottom. And I want to see how many signatures you can do in 20 seconds. Ready, set, go. Good job. Okay, stop. At the bottom, I want you to count up your signatures. If you're in the middle of one, it doesn't count, okay? So full signatures. I didn't say they had to be legible. Just count how many you got, okay? And just put the number underneath them. Everybody got it? Great. Go ahead and take the pen and put it in your other hand. And what I want you to do is the same thing. You have 20 seconds. This time, on the left-hand side of the page, sign your name as you would a check as many times as you can in 20 seconds. Notice your response. Ready, set, go. Okay, stop. Okay, now again, I did not say it had to be legible, but you only get full signatures, and I want you to write the number underneath. How many did you come up with? Okay, so the first thing is let's just look at your results of what it's like to be in a place you're not normally used to going. Not to mention your response to it. First of all, let's get to your results. Were your results different? In other words, your productivity. How many of you had a less amount of signatures on the hand you're not used to than you did? You did not. You did pretty much the same? Did almost the same thing. Good, excellent. Pretty rare. Matter of fact, very rare. Okay? Okay, but let me ask you this. How many of you noticed your productivity dropped in a place you're not used to? It's a normal part of the process. If you just step back and look at, well, of course, you've never been there before. You're not supposed to be productive. That's not this zone. This creative tension is not about productivity. That's farther down the model. This is about building energy and staying with it when you get challenged and making different choices to continue the process of manifestation and forming your vision. And when you turn back, you sabotage your process. Now, well, how about this? Okay, well, no matter how many numbers you get, how was your quality? Sharon, I've just got to know.
It looks just like when I sign the electric credit card.
Yeah, right, exactly. And if you're anything like me, it's so not like my signature. And I go, how does this actually, you go ahead and use this against me because it doesn't look like me at all, right? How many of you notice your quality changes? So when we're in the unknown and we're in a place between vision and actual manifestation, what happens to our productivity and quality? And normally we don't feel good about that. So we like to go back to what? Make sense? And this is nothing. This is just a signature exercise. Can you imagine when we have money at stake? Can you imagine when our heart's at stake? Can you imagine when our self-esteem's at stake, failure's at stake, our family's at stake? This gets turned up really big. Does this seem familiar to people? And it really scares us, and that fear runs us. And it's the fear that keeps us buying into the fear that keeps us from breaking through to the next level. Okay, let's do one more. Stand up. So here's a person that won't make decisions until what? I get input. I find out what works. Is that what you'd really like, Alex? Oh, sure, that actually. I'll do the B. Is C an option? Yeah, sure, we can go there. So here's what I want you to do. B's, raise your hand. B's, raise your hand. And take your hand and put it right in front of your partner. Not on your partner, B's. Good. Right in front of your partner. A's, raise your hand. A's, I want you to actually put your hand against the B's. So it goes like this, okay? A's. A's, I want you to start pushing on the B's. A's, I want you to start pushing on the B's. Come on, you can do better than that. This ain't no rest home. Let's go. Push, A's. Let's go. Come on, A's. Push, 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 push. You're not going to let her do that to you, Eric. I can't believe you. Oh, amazing. Oh, what is this going on over here? Come on, push, push, push. Give it up. Give it up. Come on, work it, work it, work it. Okay, great. Stop. Okay, good. Who won? Yay! Of course. In this culture, we love to be right, even when we're not, you know? Good. So real quick, just thank your partner, and then have a seat. Okay, have a seat. That is the question right there. So real quick, just to kind of show you how this stage works, do you notice that challenges, especially our own fears, our own anxieties, our own stories of what we think is possible and not possible, our own limitations, can be perceived as pushing on us? Does life push on us? Does information push on us? Do deadlines push on us? Does money push on us? Do doing work that means something to us and making money push on us? Does providing for the people we care for, does serving the people we care for push on us? We have a lot of things that are doing what? Pushing. Now notice this. What was your response to getting pushed on? Did I ask you to push back? No. Now, she didn't? Okay, good. And I'll get her in a second. So, this, I think you'll enjoy that part. So that was weird the way that came out. But just notice the conditioning without even thinking about it. I asked the A's to push on the B's. Did the B's have a response to being pushed on? Yes. Did I ask them to have a response? How fast did it happen? Amazing. And then watch this. It was a pretty nice dance for a while. They were kind of pushing like this, and the B's were kind of pushing back, and then I kind of did this. Come on, you can do better than that. You're not going to let her do that to you. And I watched some of the A's doing one of these. You're right, I'm not going to. And you started pushing, and what did they do? They pushed harder. Okay, how much energy is spent resisting what pushes us? Who wins? Even the strongest that might look like they push it the other way really doesn't win because of what it costs to do it. Sharon, would you be willing to come up here and work with me on something?
All right.
Come on!
Okay.
Okay, good. Okay, now do this, Sharon. So, what did you do in the exercise? I'm just curious.
I was a B.
Okay, good. And so I'm going to be the A.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
And, actually, you know what? Let's do this. We're going to do something before you do what you did.
Okay.
We're going to push. What's going to happen is that I'm going to push on you and you're going to push back.
Okay.
Okay? And push, and push. And notice, so we get positions, we get techniques, we learn to get stable, we build power. We love to build cases against other human beings that aren't like us to be right, to feel good about ourselves. Sound familiar? Okay, and we're pushing, right? Okay, and it's all about power, it's all about technique, and I'm doing one of these, and how much energy, how much creative force is being spent here? Okay, now respond to me the way you did before. I'm going to push on you.
Okay.
Okay? Okay? Do it again. What happened? Right, and notice what I did.
It's imbalance.
Yeah, actually what happened is that, go ahead and push again. Push, yep. Look at this. Stress, angst, anxiety, fear, worry. We don't sleep at night. Does this sound familiar? Now watch, if we stop resisting, there's a whole nother energy available to us. Beautiful. And look, what's interesting is when she pushed back, push again, do you see I'm not going anywhere? I'm going to do what? Find techniques, kind of do one of these, I'm going to get in. We're not doing real well, but watch, the second she lets it go, what happens to me? How many of you ever been, thank you very much, appreciate it, good job. Now this is a rare moment because Sharon did something that most of you didn't. Most of you, when you got pushed on, you did what? And most of you, when you got pushed on harder, did what? Push back harder. This was the rare. This wasn't the conditioned response most of us do. Honestly, if you could follow yourself around, there's a great statistic on stress. And that is that they're saying that, how many of you would like to lower the stress in your life? Great. Here's the statistic, and I think it's so inaccurate. The experts are saying that 50% or more of our stress is self-created. Get out of here. You know what my stat is? 95. 95% of the stress that we have in our life is ourselves, our limitations, our beliefs, our thinking, our feelings, our attachment to things, our projection to things, our unverified stories, our blaming, our excuses, our ducking, our weaving, our hiding, our manipulation, our control techniques, our ostrich moves, our disappearing acts. Don't see me. How much energy does it take? And in the end, are we really getting what's important to us? Look how much energy it takes to push and resist against something. And where could that be used in other ways? So, anger, frustration, self-doubt, fear, worry, confusion. Any of you experience those? How many of you really embrace them? So we have our way of doing what when they happen? Pushing back. They're actually there for a reason, to build energy. And so what we're going to look at is how do we actually maximize it and move forward. Okay? Any questions here? Okay, I'm going to give you the pitfalls, and then we're going to take a quick break. Stand up. The person you were pushing with, you're going to get with that person. Here's the question. When you take a look at your vision, whether it's the one that you kind of talked about before, your ignition, or just anything in general, when you have a great idea or you want to manifest something in your life, what would be an example of where you play small? What is an example of where you actually get in your own way? So again, the idea in this stage is we're the ones that keep us from moving it forward. What do you do to get in your own way? And what could you do to get out of your way? Okay, that's what I want you to share with you. Everybody clear on the exercise? Where do you play small? Where do you hide out? Where do you disappear? And what could you do and have done that would allow you to play in a bigger way and keep moving through it? Everybody clear? Okay, go. Share that with your partner. In the creative tension stage, from a manifestation standpoint, conflicts, problems, pain are designed to activate us, to build energy, to awaken us. They activate our life beyond what we've known and experienced, to expand our consciousness and stimulate our creative force. The purpose of pain is that it brings us alive. Do you notice? When your body hurts, all of a sudden you're paying attention to what? Your body. When you have conflict in your relationship, all of a sudden you're paying attention to it. It's designed to awaken and activate us. Unfortunately, most of our conditioning around conflict, pain, and challenges is to pull away. This is actually the spice and the alchemy of manifestation, and it's where the real juice gets built up to give you the muscle so that when you go into the next stage, your body starts changing and you become stronger and more acclimated to another being. This is critical in the process. So a couple little metaphors is in group development or relationship development. We've gone through the infatuation stage, the norming stage. It's very common. The next stage is storming. It's where we have individual ideas, different strategies, different experience, different background, different opinions. And as long as everybody would just do it the way I would like it to do, everything would be just what? Right? So I try to get everybody to do it like who? Or see it like me. So this is in teams and in groups, in relationships. It's called storming. Storming is critical in the process because it determines the power, it determines the alignment, the rules into the next stage. Incredible in a butterfly metamorphosis. Most people don't know this. But so remember, the butterfly now has just consumed everything in sight. Sound familiar as far as the human race? Yeah, it's an interesting metaphor. And then it gets so big it can't move anymore, so it attaches itself to something and it hangs upside down. It changes its whole perspective. And it starts building this cocoon. Well, you know what happens? First thing, that big, huge monster caterpillar has a bunch of digestive juices in it. What most people don't know is the juices start consuming the body of the caterpillar. And in this stage, it actually turns into goo. If you opened up the chrysalis, the cocoon of a caterpillar at this stage, there would be no caterpillar and certainly no what? But what's going on behind the scenes, the scientists have now found these things called imaginal cells. And they are the imprint and the vision of the butterfly showing up in the field. And what's going on in this stage is that the old digestive juices and cells of the old caterpillar start doing what to the imaginal cells? They actually start fighting them. It's their job to hold on. So in this stage, in the green goo, it's fighting itself so bad it consumes its very body. This stage is so powerful because the old is trying to battle the new, and the new is attempting to form. And that's what happens inside the chrysalis of the butterfly. They actually are fighting inside of there. Sound familiar? In a competence stage, this is when, in learning to drive a car, we get conscious of what we're unconscious about. We realize that, taking it to a next level sounded really good, really wanted to do it, but there's a lot of things I do to get in my own way, and if I'm really honest and I'm willing to be humble and I'm willing to be human, realize that I have faults, that I don't know, that I'm clueless, that I'm struggling, that I'm actually getting in my own way, allow myself to be vulnerable, to be in pain, to admit that in conflict I did damage to someone else, and to stay engaged and stay in the game. What happens is the energy builds, and it builds, and it builds. We become conscious of what we're incompetent about. Okay, so let's do this. We're going to take a break. Real quick break. I'd like to do a needs break, so 7-10 minutes. Does that work for folks? So remember, the idea in the process of manifestation is that it's up to us to manifest whatever we want to manifest. If we stop in any place, if we let the chaos, if we let our fears, if we let our worries, our concerns, our self-doubts, our old patterns, our old conditioning get in our way, no problem. We just get a little bit farther down the process and we get about half of what's possible. So you think this is full? When you move into the next stages, you open up life and love to a totally different standpoint. But you stay in this process to build the energy to move it. What's the energy of this phase, the creative tension phase? What's that? It's got ignition, but it's got a lot more to it, and it can definitely have ignition. And what's the energy of creative tension? It has stress. It has tension, right? It's got a lot of emotions. I call the deeper emotions fear, anger, resentment. The other ones are kind of excitement, exhilaration, maybe a little bit of hesitancy and confusion. This goes deeper. It touches us at the core of our being because it challenges us to outgrow ourselves and to become a butterfly. But the first thing we have to do is get eaten up. And what I mean by that is our ego and our identity. We've got to eat it up because we have brought us to this level of experience and expression, which invites us into the third stage. Third stage is what we do is we move into what's called alignment. This is when we stayed with the process, we built the energy, and we start to see it form. We start to see results, and things start showing up. But we still have our old way of doing things, and we've got to figure out how they work. And so there is a whole process of alignment. Isses would be, in the life metaphor, I would say it's kind of like an adolescent or a young adult. In that teenage stage, think about it. We've moved from a stage of being young and we're trying to figure out who we are in the world. We've got all these hormones that are going in our body. We're figuring our identity, our expression, our job, our career, money, our relationships, our sense of self inside the culture and community. It's a very aligning, changing, dynamic time. Or we get into a relationship, it works. It doesn't work, so I get out of it and I go into another one. And so I'm constantly retruing, in, out, doing this. Okay, that's strong. I hold on to this one. Okay, I go over here. Oh, okay, that's what's going on in this stage. Some of the things that happen here is that to keep going in the process of manifestation, it is critical that we make a commitment. We engage our full self into the experience without evidence that it will show up. This is critical. There is no evidence because it's new. We'll believe it when we see it, No, this is a stage you'll see it when you believe it. And you engage your full self. Everybody loves Disneyland. Everybody wishes they invested with Disney when they've seen the result. But were you willing to buy thousands of acres of swampland and take the risk? This is when you engage, commit to your vision with no evidence that it's going to happen. And you put your full self and your full heart into what's there when it still hasn't shown itself. It's a leap of faith. We trust in the unfolding process. It normally doesn't go the way we want it to go because we're not in control. We're in control of choices. We're in control of certain things we will, but there's a much bigger... How many of you noticed that with the biggest visions you've ever manifested in your life, it rarely goes the way you thought it was going to go? I mean, you know, your relationships turned out exactly the way you wanted them. You want $100,000? No problem. Got it the first year. Right? Kind of house I want? Yep, manifested it like that. Doesn't go like that. So how do I stay in the process? It's a leap of faith. I own my power and I evolve into who I'm becoming, regardless of the outcome. I consciously discern between upgrading the old and integrating the new. It's a conscious process to catch ourselves going back into the old familiar ways of being and making different choices. The why in the road of stage 2 is an ongoing process that happens more frequently in stage 3 because we're retruing constantly. It isn't just some big huge shift that happens. The why put us into stage 3. Stage 3 is constant tweaking, negotiation, communications, replanning, repatterning, practice and repeating new behaviors, very important, and taking risks, making mistakes, and learning from the mistakes. Not avoiding them, but learning them. Forward and backward movement is very common in this stage. It's part of the way we reform. And adjustments and negotiations are natural. It's starting to come into form. It's not fully formed. It's not fully patterned. The neural pathways are not totally set yet. So we're constantly negotiating. We're becoming more awake and activated, touching and tasting the new, but it isn't fully integrated yet. Does this sound familiar? So, a couple other metaphors in relationships and in group development. This is called norming. The storming stage is critical for groups. It's a way you get the power structure down. And in this stage, it's about negotiation. It's about creating norms as an adolescent and a young adult. How are you going to do your life? How are you going to raise your family? How are you going to make money? What's going to be important? Are you going to work 80 hours a day? Or are you going to work 40 for less money? This is where we norm. We make agreements. But we create our life the way we do it, not the way that we were brought into it. And part of that is taking some things from the way we were brought into the world in our conditioning because it works for us. So it's a very living, live negotiating process here, norming. Butterfly, interesting. If there's going to be a butterfly, who wins the war? The vision. Because if it doesn't, guess what happens? It dies in the goo. So all butterflies at some level, the imaginal shells have divided and grown, and they start to actually, through the imaginal cells, the new DNA, the new imprint, it starts to actually create form, and the goo itself starts creating the actual butterfly, which has versions of its old self. Look at a caterpillar in the body of a butterfly. It's actually holding on to parts of it, but it's taking itself to another level of expression and experience in the world. It begins to form, and the cocoon that held it tight to contain it so it could build the energy to form is no longer needed, so the old structures start to do what? Break down. They're not as appetizing anymore. I'm not as interested. I really like the juice of a close, clean communication. The eggshells in the living room, the pink elephant in the living room, aren't attractive to me anymore. I'd rather deal with the conflict, transform it, and get more connected. And I like the connection. It's much juicier than the pretending it's not going on. Can you relate to this? And we start truing our system to this. And pretty soon, the pink elephant and the walking on eggshells is no longer okay. Where for most of us, the way we were raised and we spent most of our life. In the conscious competence stage, we start to become consciously competent. We're not totally there yet. So remember driving a car? You could drive the car, but you had to think about it. Exactly where you were and you're on a hill. When I was learning how to drive, they had clutches and that kind of stuff. So, you get to the top of the hill. You could drive the car and you could get it going, but you were very conscious about your process. So conscious competence. Pitfalls, turning points. Let's do this. Everybody stand up. I'll just give you the quick story. In the hacky sack, the world of hacky sack, lots of pain, lots of suffering. That stage 2, we actually had someone come in, the investors came in, they were not players, and so they were only in it for what? The money, and that's what they took out of it. And we got left with the whole thing. So we actually bought the company, turned it around, and what happened is we started getting sponsors. Nike, it was on the Coors Light Pro Footbag team. We started getting notoriety. No longer we were the stepchildren in the big trade shows. We had bigger booths, more out in front, and we had professional athletes backing us because we actually went in and worked with them and demonstrated with the establishment of coordination, self-esteem, more movement in the body and a relationship to how the body moves. They were better athletes. And so we got the Mayer brothers on the ski team and all these endorsements. And all of a sudden, people wanted to start manufacturing it in different parts of the world. And all of a sudden, we were on the Johnny Carson show and we were in Michelob commercials. And so it starts to form. It wasn't totally there yet, but we had momentum going. But it came out of the pain and the suffering and the disappointment of the creative tension zone. So get back to the person you were doing your resisting hand exercise with. Somewhere down the line, you're going to kind of just play with that a little bit. So I want you to push and keep pushing. I want you to really engage with your partner. So maybe you give in a little bit, but you stay with the tension and you just notice what starts happening. So start pushing. Start pushing. Okay, and you're going to push.
I'm pushing.
Push, okay, and then we're both going to push, and we're just going to notice what happens. And you're going to push harder or less or whatever. And we're going to start just kind of seeing what starts happening. Pushing. Yeah. Good job. Okay, keep going, keep going. Let it evolve and see what starts happening. Notice if you move away from power. Notice where your attention goes. Awesome. How you doing?
I'm doing really well.
Yeah?
Great job. I'm really enjoying this.
Good. I'm glad you're here. How's your partner doing? I haven't connected with her name.
Zamira.
Zamira, it's a beautiful name. Names are tough. Brian's tough enough. Feel like, what's going on with you?
Yeah,
We were opening up.
I noticed that.
it was a relief.
In the first, you're doing what? Pushing, right? And then you notice that, also one of the things I noticed is that when I'm resisting or I'm pushing, I'm normally focused on me, my position, my vision, what I want out of another person to get what I want. But what started happening in your process? And where did your focus go for the uniformity to happen?
It went into creativity.
Yeah, but when you were in creativity, did you notice you couldn't just focus on you? You had to connect with who? The other person, and you had to actually be paying attention to them and what they were doing, what they were initiating, along with your response to it. So whether you know it, your brain was just going tick, 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 because it's not just your way. It's retruing. And all of a sudden you push and I go like this and something else emerges. And most of you, from a resistive stance, which I believe is most of the world right now, this is the world. Except we have really big things, and we do this to one another. But when all of a sudden we start paying attention, there's room for both of us to work, whatever it is. And yet, he's not giving his power away, he's still doing it, but there's a way for me to play with it. And notice what happens naturally, and then collaborate with our vision. We collaborate with the internal mechanism inside of us that wants to grow and experience and express another version of life. And what's really cool in this stage, one of the biggest strategies, is we don't do it because you can never be bigger than you when you do it alone. And when you play with somebody else, it evokes another higher level of play. So it's really important to play with other people that are in the process of activating their life, their passion, their ignition, tapping into the creative juice, and it's a very incredible experience. It's different when you break through by yourself than when you break through with other people. How many of you noticed that? It's wonderful to love yourself, but it's really cool when you love yourself and you let someone else love you and you love somebody else. With me? It's beautiful to play, but it's even juicier to play with other people. Have you noticed? This is the alignment stage. Make sense? Great. Thank your partner in whatever way you choose. Thank you, Brian. I love winning with other people, and I love losing with other people. And so what's really beautiful, I believe what's happening in the corporate world is the system is breaking down, and it's bringing us back into our natural state, which is not being catalyzed by disaster or fear. How many of you notice that when you see drama or disaster, that what do people naturally do when other people fly planes into buildings? What do we do as a culture? We come together because I believe that's our natural state. What the vault and the collaborative space gives us a chance to do is have possibly our own businesses, our own ventures, and yet do it in the energy and the collective vision of other people that are trying to follow their heart and activate passion, take their lives to another level, and have a 4-hour work week and something that's meaningful. To do it with other people is really cool. So, I don't know. How's that for a commercial? Okay, good. You like that one? All right. So, in this stage, common pitfalls. Remember, we can turn back. It's very common in this stage that conflict, difficulty, and chaos sabotage our process. We don't stay with the process long enough to repattern old habits. This is very common. People go out, they start working out, they start eating differently. They've been doing it for 2 or 3 weeks, but they've been eating that other way for their whole life. They don't stay with it long enough. So what happens is slowly but surely we get bought into the old way of thinking, believing, acting, and perceiving the world. Too much, too fast. It's in the healing world. This is called the healing crisis. Actually, I was talking to Deb earlier. If you're a coffee drinker and you ever tried to stop drinking coffee, let's say you love coffee, and you just try to cold turkey it or cold turkey stop smoking cigarettes or drugs or alcohol, what happens to your system? It freaks out. Too much, too fast. Going in and expecting it to just do this when you've spent your whole life on, it's a process. And it's a living process. We turn back prior to full completion with limited knowledge and feedback and unanswered questions. You will know whether you have not completed your vision if it keeps gnawing at you, because it won't go away. Our truth never does. We can talk ourselves out of it for a little while, but guess what will be back? At 2 o'clock in the morning. The next time we actually see a couple in love, and that's what we really want is an intimate relationship. It brings it all back. So the beautiful thing, when we start connecting with our truth, our inner software, it will tell us whether we're on or off, and we can navigate. It is a conscious dance. And the more conscious we become, the better chance we can make choices when it's our job to do that, and then let the universe play through when it's not. God's got it. Mystery's got it. It's all part of the process. It's on its own timing. My job is to stay right here and engaged in the process. Okay? Questions on this stage? Oops, wrong remote control. Again, the idea here is that if we stop, we turn back, nothing wrong with it. But look how much more of life we've gotten here. But we're still missing a really, really very juicy part of the pie. And that's when we really take the ball over the line and we move into the next stage. And that stage is the stage of integration. It's the stage when the actual old is now integrated with the new. And there is a new expression of who I have become, which is actually an aspect of who I've been and an aspect of who I am becoming into one expression of life, and it's now more integrated. And I get to play that out. It is so juicy because of what it took for us to get there in the initial 3 stages. So, a couple metaphors. This is kind of, we live in a funny little society. Because you know in this society what we do with older people? Yeah, we put them away. But you know what? The people of the earth, the cultures of the earth, the tribal nations, they didn't do that. What did they do with their elders? They worshiped them. Why? Are you kidding me? They just spent their whole life going through the first 3 stages. They have wisdom, not knowledge. In the tribal cultures, an adult would never teach the children. They would never let the adult was too strong. Their job was to provide, to care for. Who taught the children in native cultures? The elders, that was their job. The elder was revered because of the wisdom, the wrinkles of experience, the maturity of being a full, complete, screw-up human being. We're the whole package. And in some way, we've become softened and humbled and open to impart another perspective that's from the experience of knowledge meeting experience. And we move into the elder, the crone. And it's a wonderful, honoring place. And what we do is we put them away. And so we continue to change our face and do things and make us go back and wish we could be younger, when in fact there's a beautiful, gorgeous ripening to the fruit when it gets to this stage that only you can have when you get older. And it's actually part of life. Can we be proud of our age? Can we be proud that we've made it through this incredible life that's filled with pain and suffering and joy and relationships and heartbreaks and death? It's the whole miracle of existence that's offering it to us, if we choose to go here. Or we deny it and pretend that we're 20 again. Only problem, it's not real. What happens here is we start getting a taste of the new. The desired change in habits are strengthened. They become integrated. There's definitely an increased consciousness, a self-esteem. We enjoy the fruit of our labor. There's more joy. There's more space. There's more room. Because the things that held us back aren't sucking our energy. They're now actually being reaped, and we have another experience of life. There's a wisdom and an emotional maturity that occurs in this stage that only comes through going through the other stages. There's an eagerness to learn and grow. One of the things that are common in this stage is healing. I call it contagious creativity, thriving vitality. Synergy is very common because we connect with other people and miracles happen. And breakthrough performance occurs in this stage. Relationships, this is performing. The person that I'm with right now, I've had more people tell me how fortunate I am. My response is, I wonder how my 3 ex-wives would respond to that. And I wonder if they would say that I'm lucky. And although I didn't do the marriage thing really good, they were all conscious divorces where we never used a lawyer, and we did it from our heart, and we cleaned it up. And I believe because we went to the pain and the forgiveness, that it opened up the field to have the most healthy, easy, most gorgeous relationship I've ever had in my life. It wasn't lucky. I didn't sit there with my mouth wide open waiting for a roasted duck to fly in it. Hacky Sack, 1983, the company was sold for millions of dollars. We sold it to Whammo. And the director of sales and marketing and I started a company called the World Footbag Association. Today there are over 25 different manufacturers. The World Championships travels around the world. Last year I think it was in Prague, and this year in Sweden. Like, if you want to see something amazing, the Guinness World Book of Record for people that can kick a footbag without stopping is 83,000 plus kicks in 8.5 hours, no stops, no drops. The kids that are playing the net game right now, it's unbelievable. Freestyle is over the top. Millions of bags are being sold. And it's an activity that goes from both the cooperative, the $10, the play, the cooperation, all the way to the highest level of athletes. Were we lucky? Fortunate? Yes. Luck had nothing to do with it. Butterfly metamorphosis, guess what emerges? Pretty amazing, huh? When I never knew about the green goose stage, I always kind of thought it did something in the cocoon, but I never knew it. But it actually goes to liquid. You open it up. And if you try to open up a cocoon too fast, what will happen to the butterfly or the whatever it is? You kill it. You can't force the process. Any questions? Good. So in the competence stage, this is that place where most of us operate in driving a car today. How many of you drive your car, are totally clueless from a consciousness standpoint that you're driving 65 miles an hour and that there's other bunch of yahoos that are driving 65 miles an hour right next to you because you're focused on what? Talking on the phone, eating, the kids. It's so part of our world. It's so integrated, we don't even think about it anymore. We take it for granted until the brake lights come on in front of us and all of a sudden, boom, we wake up. That's how big our world gets, our capacity. You're talking about capacity, if we're willing to stay with the process. And yet I know some people today that never made it through the creative tension zone in driving a car and don't drive a car to this day. And their fears are bigger than they ever were, and it limits their life. Do you know people like this? They got into a relationship, they got out, their partner died, whatever it is, and they've never been in a relationship again. Fine, nothing wrong with it. The question is, what do you want? And I'm sorry, you said question, yes.
When you talked about the ignition stage in the very beginning, you talked about how these ideas just come to you and it's from an energy source, whatever you want to term that as and define it. But you can't take full responsibility for it, is the way that I took that. That it comes from somewhere. But then here you were just talking about luck and luck versus being fortunate, and so I guess I'm just trying to reconcile that and I guess my answer to myself is that it isn't luck because you've come through, you've done all this work, you've achieved, you've gone through a process. But in the beginning, during the ignition stage, there is an element of luck, right? Of something unknown. So I'm just trying to figure out where
when you fit, good. You know what? And when you do this, so I know you want me to repeat that, but I'm so not going to repeat that question. Just for the filming, I'm asked to kind of repeat the questions that people ask because there was so much there. I believe I do. Let me attempt to do this. When you figure that one out, will you let me know? Because what I believe in a world of perceived polarities, they're both true, but the mind wants the right answer. What if it's actually both true? It's totally luck, and yet you get to take personal responsibility for your choices and your will. It's thy will and my will mixed into a mysterious world where we're infused with ideas that happen out of nowhere, but we also make conscious choices to either move it forward or move backward, to avoid it or to engage in it. It's actually both. It's a funny little thing. That's why I say I don't think I was lucky, I think I'm fortunate. because I was gifted by being awake to seeing I do have a choice and that I'm not in control all the time. And what's cool in a world of polarity is they're both true, but the mind wants one answer. As one of my teachers said, do you have the courage to embrace your ambiguity? Do you have the courage to be the great human being and the weak human being? Do you have a courage to be masculine and feminine? Do you have the courage to be strong and to be weak? To be kind and to be mean? Do you have the courage to forgive and be on your knees and pray, reach out, ask for help, whatever your deal is, because you don't have the answers? I actually think it's both. That's why I don't know what the answer is, but if you can figure it out, let me know. Does that help? I don't, or totally make you confused?
No, it's helpful.
What I know is that the mind wants to know the answer. This life is way too big for our knowing.
Well, you said it, let the universe play through.
And also, you are the universe, so you actually have will.
The effort
It's
is
both.
mine, the effort is mine, the results are mine.
Right, and what's beautiful about it is that what's cool is the more I awaken, the more conscious I become, the greater my capacity to recognize when it's wiser to yield or to push, to rest or to engage, safe, dangerous, open, close. We can't be open all the time. We can't be performing all the time. Our homeostasis needs us to rest and rejuvenate. The seasons go through a pattern. That's why it's a cycle. Each one of these stages has a cycle. Each one in the Native American medicine wheel has a direction. We could go on and on about the metaphors here. How many of you ever moved from your home? How many of you it was a really great idea when you had it? And then all of a sudden you went into stage 2 and it turned into, right? It's just unbelievable what takes place, and it just looks so chaotic. But somehow in the end you pull it off and you're in the new place, but it's filled with boxes. It's definitely different, but it's not totally there. And then pretty soon you're in your new home and you don't even remember the old one. I can do the same thing with jobs. I can do the same thing with dating. I can do the same thing with so many metaphors. It's the same dance. And it's actually the beauty of letting it occur, being open to the mystery, to that which is greater than we'll ever know, and also making choices on our part in it. Because the beautiful thing is, Catherine, you have an expression and a gift to experience and love in this world that is totally different than mine, and yet at the same time we both want to love. Make sense? We're the same being, we just have a different way of expressing it and experiencing it. And the two of us doing it together and uniquely different makes it really cool, because they're both true. That's maturity. I don't know if any of this is true. I'm making this up, and I'm just offering. I am. It's just through my experience. It's just through my own life. So I just offer it to you as a possibility when we're looking at reinventing ourselves. It's a very dynamic process that the more that you awaken and become conscious, the greater the chance you actually let the universe run the show and you own your power to navigate that course. Answer anywhere, somewhere in there? Good, okay. All right. So one thing I want to just offer to you that I think in this quick fix, fast-paced culture that a lot of us are influenced by, that is conditioned deeply with a materialized, commercialized world, that who we are and what we have is not enough. One of the things that keeps us in that pattern is not really engaging in this stage and realizing what it takes to have gotten this far in the model. What does it take to get to be 50 and 60 years old and have the wisdom that we have? One thing we forget is a lot of the visions that we are living now, a lot of the ways we are living now were a vision at one point. One of the greatest important things in human beings is the need to celebrate, to receive, to take it in. And when we don't allow ourselves to do that and we just start a new project and we start another thing, we never feel fulfilled or filled up, so we're always looking for it in the next juice, the next drug, the next project, the next venture, the next relationship. So one of the most important things and the pitfalls is that we're unable to receive and integrate the very change we've worked so hard to manifest. We don't stop because you or something outside of you is not enough. It's always a bigger house. It's always a newer, prettier person. It's always more money. You know what's amazing about money? How few people actually will tell you they have enough, no matter how much they have. People that have billions of dollars still are looking for, right, so we're missing the actual juice of what money was when we first went after it, which for most of us is some form of freedom, some sort of choice, a sense of security, stability. If I don't connect with those very things, then I get lost in the strategy called money, and I forget why I'm doing it. Why did you come here? What are you really about? Is there room in your life to allow yourself to receive the beauty of who you are and who you've become because of not only the things that have happened to you, but what you've done with them? And when we don't do that, we revert back. We minimize our success, we give it to someone else, and we don't take the ball over the line. And one of the most beautiful things about a hard effort and a big win is celebrating, is joy, is tears of gratitude, of gratefulness for life, for working so hard to have something beautiful. Joan was saying, did you know that in your butterfly metaphor, that when a butterfly comes out of its cocoon, and I didn't know this, so thank you so much, this is beautiful, is see how I'm doing this, see how I weave this in, okay? You let me know. Oh, don't give it to me yet. Okay, we got to celebrate. Let me see if I can pull this off. Supposedly, according to Joan, when a butterfly comes out of its cocoon, it doesn't fly right away. The first thing it needs to do is get the muscles and get used to its new form. So what it does is it starts exercising its wings, and it builds, right? Is that right? And then it moves the fluid. Okay, so the fluid goes, so it's actually integrating before it emerges into its full being. How'd we do?
good.
Oh, God! Do I get it? Okay, sweet! That's it. That's what a full manifestation is. Sweet!
It is, it's the piece.
One of the most beautiful people in my life is my ex-wife because of what we went through. And we love each other so dearly. We weren't supposed to do what we did, but we love each other so dearly in who we become as a result of it, and we celebrate that. And it's just like the two of us. Nobody will ever understand. One of my most close friends is the guy who did the hacky sack thing when we formed the WFA and I walked away. He just celebrated his 27th year with this organization. He's making a lot of money, doing a lot of cool stuff, caring deeply about people, and I've walked away from it, but nobody knows what really went on besides Bruce and I. There's a juice to maturity. There's a juice to life fully expressed and experienced that you don't get when you cut the corners, when you don't take the ball over the line, when you don't face the pain. We gyp ourselves out of what's possible. Make sense? Okay, so I don't know about you, but one of the questions I have is, okay, how do I do this? How do I actually pull this off? Well, the handout's filled with all kinds of strategies, but I bet you got strategies that are much better than I am. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to grab your chairs, form a small group. There's no more than 4 people in the group, and I'd like you to be with some new people, or actually get with some people you know. But 4 people, you like that because I've been busting you up all night long? 4 people, I don't care who you get with. 4 people, including you. Wait for further directions. Form a circle. There is a process that I've given to you as a takeaway. And it's called an envisioning process versus a visioning process, which many times looks outside of us. These questions take us in. If you're not familiar with the incredible research and work of the Institute of Heart Math, there's incredible research right now around the power of the heart, the wattage of the heart, and how much of the system, including the brain, entrains with the heart, not the old model where everything entrains with the brain. What I would encourage you to do with this is when you answer these questions, take them home with you. If you're going to do it by yourself, connect with your heart first. So wherever it is, you close your eyes, and if it's a physical connection, I like to actually put my hands on where I think it is. And then what I do is I connect with something that I'm grateful for. Something that I love and appreciate it. And I won't get into the science of it, but it creates an energetic wave pattern. And then go through these questions and see what shows up. I'll give you an example of some of them. What is the experience you are seeking if you were to have what you wanted? What would you need to embrace? What would you need to release? If you could be 5 years out and meet your future self, and you have achieved what you have wanted in the deepest place in your heart, and you could give yourself a tip now from that future place, what would it be? That's here. Allow yourself to deepen, not just put your first answer. Stay connected to your heart. Another thing I love is, I don't know why, but there's something when I do questions with somebody else, if I ask myself a question, but if Gail asks me the question, I will go in totally different places. It's the very same question, just by her asking it. This is a great thing to do with somebody else. Connect to your heart. Get connected to a gratitude and an appreciation. Keep your eyes closed and let them answer the question and see what shows up. And I bet you it'll be a little bit different than what your mind normally comes up with, unless it's not. It's just another tool. Everybody stand up, please. Come over here. Leave your stuff behind. One circle right here.